You're listening to the Third Coast Gridiron H-Town's podcast on the LSG Network with your host, Marc Henry.
Rolling into week 8, this is the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network. I am your host, Marc Henry. H-Town is going down. It's almost playoff time. We got to see who's going to be in, who's going to be out cooking Thanksgiving dinner early. Playoffs are around the corner. We're going to talk about that and more. Of course, a few standouts from week 7. All that and more right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. We're going to pay some bills. We'll come and take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about week 7 right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
Week 7 saw a monumental matchup over 23-6A between Seed King and Summer Creek. That was a Thursday affair. Of course, we talked about this game last week. At that particular time, Summer Creek was ranked number 3 in the state, and of course, Seed King was ranked in the top 20 at 18. They take the big victory, 42-28. Now, it started off not so hot for Summer Creek as they had 4 fumbles in the first half. They kind of got behind the 8-ball early, and Seed King pounced on them. Deion Sims, who's committed to Stephen F. Austin, rushed for 168 yards and a touchdown. Seed King moves to 5-0 and 3-0 in that district. They're in control. 442 yards of total offense, averaging nearly 8 yards a play. That's big-time football. Now, North Shore still the creme de la creme. They hadn't lost a game in there. This is going to be a monumental matchup coming up. But nobody has been able to take down North Shore in the last, I would say, 10 years or so. That's how long North Shore's been the top dog in this district. They won state titles in 2015, 2018, 2019, and 2021. But Seed King's on the rise. Timothy Potts had a big day as well, and he's the guy that's really been at the forefront of this offense and getting those guys on track. Of course, Dylan Mitchell is a threat to score anytime he touches the football. He's a dynamic guy, of course, one of the best sprinters in the country as a sophomore. These guys are going to be right at the forefront of this particular district. I think Summer Creek still will be a playoff team. You got to task the City Kingwood as well. Hey, it's not over till it's over. We're going to talk about some big games coming up in week 8, but shout out to City King. The Panthers get a big victory that they needed. Straight Jesuit John Herbert's been playing at a high level, man. This is a U of H commit. He rushed for 323 yards and 6 touchdowns. As they got a big victory over L6 63-42 in District 26A action, man. He's got 1,546 yards and 20 touchdowns through 6 games. He was the second leading rusher in the country last year. U of A snatched him one on this one. I'm sure there's more colleges starting to come, but, I mean, when you got this kind of lineup with Jaden Warren from Iowa College, of course you got the number 1 player in the country in Keyshawn Henderson staying home, he could possibly turn around and hand it off to John Herbert in the future. Definitely, I can't wait to see these guys in Cougar Red and really Cougar Baby Blue now that they got the throwback Oilers retros that they wear sometime. But listen, he had a phenomenal game. They're 4-2 on the season and undefeated in 26A play. Let's talk about Fort Bend Bush. Right now, they're firmly in the hunt for a postseason appearance. They won games in the first 5 games, for the first time in a long time. They're 4-3 overall. Again, we try to talk about some teams that everybody's going to see or talk about a lot. And they got a big victory over Elkins in week 7, 28-24. It was a key matchup. Again, all of these teams are vying for playoff positioning and a playoff berth. Only 4 teams can go. Right now, they're 2-2 in the league and tied for 4th place. This is something they got to continue to ball. They got to continue to ball. They got to continue to do it. They got to continue to run through the table in order to run the table to get there, man. But I think that, shout out to Bush, man. They had a big victory, and they're rolling right now. It's just a team that you definitely may want to see make the playoffs there. But let's talk about Westfield, man. They played a very tough schedule. The Mustangs started out the season 0-3, taking on Hightower, North Shore, and Seed King. They're battle-tested. And I think that, every year the Mustangs have this kind of run late in the year. Right now in 14-6A, they've been showing that they got a championship type team this year. And they got a big win over Spring, 38-30, and then come back this past week and take care of the Caney 32-0. That's 2 shutouts. The defense is playing at a high level. Right now, I think that Westfield's going to be a playoff team. Des Black has got these guys playing well. Of course, the Mustangs are undefeated in district play. They still have Davis to deal with as well. But they're only allowing 5 yards a carry. And they held the Cougars to less than 100 yards rushing. And I think these guys are playing at a high level. They got Devon Smith, who's a great linebacker prospect, and defensive back Camry Bell, and Jadarius Amos, definitely the quarterback who sets the tone over there. I think that these guys know that they have to get this thing done in order to get to the playoffs. I think that, hey, they're a talented group. Of course, you talk about Smith on the defensive side for sure. The Mustangs have always had that talent. And then you got to talk about a couple of guys, Jalen and Jordan Jones on the defensive side. If they sound familiar, these guys are twins. One's a linebacker, one's an edge guy. 2027 standouts. They've been playing at a high level as well. That defense is stacked over there. And that's what you want to see, is your team's peaking at the right time. This is that time of year where it starts to get down to who's going to get in and who's going to be out. Now, we still got some undefeated teams here in the H. You got to look at Ridge Point 7-0, Dickinson 6-0, Pearland, Randall, College Park, Angleton, Magnolia, and of course JY, south side of things. Of course, we're going to shout out to HISD when we do the third coast. That's what we do. Shout out to the Yates Lions, man. They got a big one over the weekend. They look like they're in the front driver's seat of that particular district in 11-4A. We thought Washington was in there, but they took a tough loss to Worthy. Right now in that district, it looks like the Yates Lions are going to run away with it. North Forest was their opponent last week, and it was 56-6. In the previous games, they only allowed 6, 0, 14, 7, another shutout, 8, and 7. Those are the team. That's what the teams have scored against the Yates Lions this year. They've been playing phenomenal defense. And you got to look at those guys as a participant in the playoffs this year. I think that they're gonna make some noise. I really do. I really like what the Yates Lions are doing. We talked about that defense, and they're playing phenomenal. I think that these guys know this is their opportunity. Of course, they still got Northside, Washington, and Fur left, but hey, you never know when you comes to the playoffs. And I think the Lions are ready. I think they're hungry, and they want to make a run in this playoffs. Right now, they're in the driver's seat in 11-4 AD1. With a 7-0 record and a 5-0. Tompkins had a phenomenal night. I think they're in a big 51-2 win over Morton Ranch. 208 yards, 5 touchdowns, averaged over 12 yards a carry in that big win. Jovan Rodriguez over at Paytown had a big rushing night, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns in a loss, but he got it done. And Rodriguez has been on this list before. Now, you got to get, college coaches, if you're checking this out, you might want to step over to Payto and check out this leading rusher that they got over there. Kerry Clay got busy for Galena Park, man. Rushed for 329 yards and 4 tutties, but they lost to Wall Trip 44-37. But listen, he's been on this list before, over 300 yards. He had 229 the week before. Keldred Ben, running back at Montgomery, is balling out of control. Rushed for 279 yards and also had 26 receiving yards for a total of 305 total. Ben got it done, man. Shout out to Montgomery. Wayne Shanks Jr. over at Kincaid, balling out of control. He's a guy that you need to know about. Had a big win over Dallas Episcopal. 222 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Added 4 catches and another tutty. 4 touchdowns total as he got busy. Braylon Fisher at Crawford. Now, Crawford's one of those teams that you got to look at. 5-1 on the season and 12-4 at D1 play. I'm telling you right now, don't sleep on these guys. 14-18 for 280 yards and 5 tutties, averaging over 20 yards an attempt. They got busy over there. Crawford and Braylon Fisher's a team you need to know about. Trenton Blaylock over at Atascocita is one of the best corners in the state. Now, he got a big one. Atascocita got a big one. They bounced back from the previous week when they lost to their rival Summer Creek 35-3 over Humble. He was only targeted 3 times, came away with a pass breakup and 2 interceptions. Blaylock's one of the sticky defenders over there. He's only a junior. Of course, he's back for Atascocita next year. I still think Atascocita has a chance to do their thing and get into the playoffs. I think they'll be a playoff team for sure. And a big reason is going to be the performance of Blaylock and company over there. And definitely Corday Mack's going to have something to say about that. But I think that, it's just one of the tougher districts in the state, not just in H. And Blaylock's one of those guys that you want out on the island out there defending. Benny Easter, the junior wide receiver for Summer Creek. Now, Summer Creek fell, but Easter had 17 catches for 176 yards and 2 tutties. He's only a junior. Recruiting's starting to pick up. You can probably name drop any school, definitely in the state of Texas, and this dude is balling out, and they're offering him. He's going to be a big reason. Of course, they're going to have to bounce back this week. They still got to play North Shore. But in this district, I think they'll be a playoff team. Tough loss to Seed King. They kind of got started late. They had 4 fumbles in the first half. It got down early. They fought back to get 28 points, but it was too little too late. Justin Henry over at Wild Trip made several big plays. Wild Trip's 5-1 and undefeated in district in a 44-37 win over Galena Park in 10-5 D1 play. 3 turnovers for the Wild Trip defense. He forced a fumble and also had 2 interceptions. He was balling out of control, man. Definitely shout out to Wild Trip. Shout out to HISD. You know what I'm saying? We're always going to talk about HISD right here on the TCG. If you ever listen to the TCG in these last 3 seasons, we're going to talk about HISD every week. Shout out to Lamar. Shout out to Heights. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Westbury, who's having a phenomenal season as well. But let's take a small break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk Week 8 matchups right here in H-Town. This is the Third Coast Gridiron.
Hey, do you need topsoil, fill dirt, sand, mulch, gravel, limestone, you name it? Do you need that delivered and or spread? Texas Tree Cycle in Victoria has you covered for residential and commercial projects, big or small. These guys do it all. They do some amazing work. You can call them at 361-237-8006 for a free estimate. That's Texas Tree Cycle, bringing quality materials to your yard.
Heading into Week 8, we're going to talk about a couple teams from the H that are ranked in the state, a couple of big games that we got on our radar right here on the TCG. Of course, Ridge Point comes in at number 3 in the state, undefeated. The Panthers are playing at a high level. They're number 3 in the state this week. They're off, but hey, I've been talking about this if you've been listening to the show. I think the Ridge Point's a team that could come out and get into the playoffs and make a run. I think they're playing at a great high level. That running game is really been really good, and their defense has been stingy. Dickinson, the Gators, come in at number 5 in the state. They take on the Brazoswood Buccaneers this week. The Gators have been phenomenal, man. They put up 71 on Clear Lake last week in a big victory. They put up 71 the week before against Clearbrook. They playing high level, man. I really don't see anybody in this district really taking them out. They're on their way to being a number 1 seed. They still got Deer Park, though, who's also undefeated in district, and Clear Springs on the horizon in the next couple of weeks. So I really think that, they got to pay attention to what they're doing. Of course, they got Brazoswood this week, 1 game at a time. But I think that the Gators are showing that they're one of the top teams in the state. They come in at number 5. The Pearland Oilers right behind them at 7-0 at number 6 in the state. Take on Pasadena Memorial this week. The Oilers are playing at a high level. There's a reason they're ranked in the state. North Shore's in at number 12 in 6A. They take on Channelview this week. But listen, North Shore's got a tough stretch to end the season. Sea King, Atascocita, and Summer Creek as the last game. These guys know that they have to get into. This is going to tell the true telltale sign if they're going to get this district title again. They got a tough stretch after they get done with Channelview. And it starts with Atascocita, then Sea King, Summer Creek. Now, we talked about Sea King. The Panthers got a big victory over Summer Creek last week. They take on Humble this week. Sea King comes in at number 15 in the state. They are playing at a high level. Of course, Deion Sims has been phenomenal. Stephen F. Foster commit, running it, catching it out of the backfield. They've been playing at a high level. Now, the College Park Cavaliers are 7-0. That's a big game this week. They take on the Woodlands. This is going to probably tell who's going to come out as the district champ in this particular matchup. Willis is in there as well at 4-1. Grand Oaks is 3-2, and you got the Highlanders at 3-1. If the Highlanders can possibly beat College Park, then you have what you would call a dog pile up in there in that district. Conroe's, the Tigers are 2-2, and then you got Oak Ridge at 2-2. So, this is one of those games that you got to look at as a big time contest. Of course, College Park is just playing at a high level. Shout out to Coach Kyle Coates. They're playing at a high level. Marco Beltran's a DB that you need to know about, as well as Jordan Stiles. Of course, Camden Hughes has been playing lights out. And last year he threw for over 2,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, and he's having one of those big years again. Of course, you got Cromartie, who came in this year and has been a top player for those guys. But now, when you talk about the Woodlands, this is the team that's been battle-tested. This is the team that's been to the playoffs, been there and done that. They're 5-1 on the season, with their only loss being to the Willis Wildcats. They put up 52 against Caney Creek and 69 last week in a dominating affair over Cleveland. You definitely got to look at these guys as a potential district title matchup with this particular game. Jack Dalton, the TCU commits, playing at a high level. Parker Stewart on the defensive side is a guy that can go get it. You don't want to throw it in his area because he'll take it back to the house. Cody Jordan, the running back, has been playing great as well. Derek Williams on the defensive line, and Dylan Carpenter. Eli Lancaster, wide receiver, has been playing at a high level for the Woodlands, man. This is a big game, one of the games that we will keep our eye on right here in H-Town on the Third Coast Gridiron.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. That's LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
Definitely a game you need to know about. Tomball and Tomball Memorial. This is a matchup, the Battle of Tomball. Who's going to get it? Who's going to get it done? We're going to see. I like the Cougars in this game. They're ranked number 20 in the state, 5-1 on the season. Memorial's coming in. That's a rivalry game. Now, the Cougars come in ranked number 20 in the state this week, 5-1 overall. They got a couple of big wins early on in the season against Stratford, Cinco Ranch, Magnolia West, and Klein Oak. Their only loss was to Collins, and this is a big matchup at 15-6A. We talked about this district a couple episodes ago, if you've been paying attention. Tomball at 3-1. You got Klein at 3-2. Of course, the Magnolia Bulldogs are undefeated, and you got Klein Collins sitting at 4-1. Now, if the Cougars can get by and get this win, that sets them up for a big stretch with Magnolia, Kane, and Klein Forest in the season. This is a big game. This is why we're talking about it right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. Summer Creek comes in at number 21. They fall and tumble down out of the top 10 after the loss to Seed King. The 5-1 on the season, take on Goose Creek Memorial. They should get back on their feet, get things under control, and get back into the win column. At 22, you got the Memorial Mustangs. Definitely a team you need to know about, man. In 17-6A, they're 5-1 overall, and a couple big victories early on in the season against Seven Lakes, Cypress Ranch, Cy Falls, and Cy Ridge. And last week they got by Cy Fair 37-31. This is one of those games coming up against Cypress Creek that they need to have. Of course, Cy Creek's coming in at 1-2 and 1-5, so they have to take care of business. To close the season out, they got Northbrook, Jersey Village, and Stratford. Stratford, the Spartans are undefeated. They're 3-3 overall, but they won 3 in a row in this particular district in 17-6A. So I know Memorial's going to be looking at this game as a game that they need to make sure that they take care of their business, stay at the top of that district. Cypress Ranch. Cy Ranch is coming in ranked in the top 25 this week, 4-2 overall. Couple big wins early on in the seasons over New Caney, put up 62. Cypress Springs, they got a big win. That was a big one. Side Park, and then they got a big one over Waller last week, 35-33. 16-6A, they're right on the top at 3-0. So they got to continue to do this. Coach, you got Bridgeland, Cy Lakes, Langham Creek, and Waller all sitting at 2-1. Dogpile in 16-6A. But right now, Cy Ranch controls it. They control their own destiny, and they are a team that you got to watch for when you talk about playoff teams. You know, like we said, this is week 8. This is where teams are going to start to separate themselves and start to, you know, you're going to see these teams kind of jockeying themselves to position when it comes to playoff seeding and getting into playoffs. This is what you got to look for. And I think that, you know, these teams that we talked about are definitely teams that you got to keep an eye on when it comes to being playoff teams. But that's all we got for you this week here on the Third Coast Gridiron. We appreciate you tapping in. This is season 6, man. Definitely been rolling with the Lone Star Gridiron Network, the authority for high school football in the state of Texas. I am your host, Marc Henry. You can follow me on Twitter at Third Gridiron, at MarkHen44, or at TXTP Show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, man. The Instagram is at Marc, MARC_HEN44. Tap in with us, man, right here on the TCG. We appreciate you. We'll holler at you next week.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. That's LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.